Hello, this is ST589, Fundamentals of Information Technology. I'm Rob Hepler, of course. This is a really brief, short lecture about your fourth assignment, which is PowerPoint, presentation software. Specifically, we're going to use Microsoft PowerPoint for this class. There are other packages. And I want to talk a little bit about presentations in general, not much. You're all teachers. You do presentations almost on a daily basis. You've been honing your skill for years. You're all very good at it. And I just want to talk a little bit about, generally about presentations, but there are some specifics about presentation software and the unique things dealing with those. Then, of course, we're going to talk about specifics about your assignment. And we're going to go through the PowerPoint. Most of you probably know how to do this. You're all using PowerPoint. What else do people use? They use other software, but I mean, you're all using presentation software, and probably the majority of us are using PowerPoint. I just wanted to show this second slide here. This is a reality. And that, of course, is not the slide I wanted to show. This one. How about this one? There we go. This slide, death by PowerPoint. That's a phrase circulating in the industry right now, has been for a while. The idea, of course, is that people are so focused on getting their PowerPoints ready that they fail to think about all the techniques of presentation. People don't come to a presentation to look at your PowerPoints. That's not what we're trying to do. They come to a presentation to look at you and listen to you. Your PowerPoints are nothing more than a visual aid for you and kind of an outline for the audience to see what you're talking about, but they are not the presentation. You are. That's why you make PowerPoints, okay? Death by PowerPoint refers to the groan that you hear when, students go to a class and then the instructor pulls up a PowerPoint and it says 825 PowerPoint slides. No, you got to sit through all of those before you're done with the lecture. Seems to be more about the file and the electronics and the digits than it is about the topic. Death by PowerPoint. You might think about that phrase when you're designing your PowerPoints next time for presentations. You all know how to teach. You know how to do presentations, specifically talking about software presentations. First thing I wanted to do before we get into assignment 4 is go through recommendations on PowerPoint presentations, but this particular document is about presentation, so it's assuming the audience for this document hasn't done a lot of presentations. It's specifically about PowerPoints, but a lot of the recommendations are very good for presentations in general. Most of you do these things very well. I'm just going to go over them kind of as a review, okay? And we're going to talk specifically about PowerPoints. You can do a search on Google about something, type in something like good PowerPoint presentations. All kinds of documents came up. And I looked through them and I found this one, which I think is pretty good. So we're going to use that kind of as a structure. Not saying this is the be-all, end-all. I'm just saying this has some good points in it. This was written by Joseph Gallion, the University of Minnesota, Duluth. Don't know him, don't know about him, but his document was on the web and I researched it and found this a pretty good document. I know this is hard to read in the, perhaps, let me just switch this for a second. Not what I want to do, one second. So real briefly, I'm going to switch to this mode for you. Kind of as an experiment here. All right. See how this works. Let's go through some of these suggestions, and I'm going to talk through them. I'm not going to read them to you. First of all, you all know this, the level of your audience, the knowledge of your target. Who's your target audience? Obvious. You do that every day with your class. and subjects that will appeal to that audience. Of course, your curriculum is defined by the state in most cases, but you could, what you choose within that could be something to think about. I like this one. Don't overestimate what the audience knows. You know that. You can't assume they know anything. You have to start with basics, and all of us when we teach, it's one of the difficulties about this kind of teaching, this distance education. You can't get feedback. When you're lecturing in a classroom, you start very basic, you start getting feedback, and you realize this particular audience knows this stuff better than the last audience, so you can skip ahead. But don't overestimate what they know. In other words, make sure you fill in all the foundation before you move on. Don't do too much, especially with PowerPoints. Remember, PowerPoints are to help you talk. They're not the end. They're not the product. Don't do too much. Let's see. This particular document was designed specifically for math teachers. Okay. I'm going to move on here if I can. Yeah, there we go. Short, informative title, and I do require on an assignment that you use a titled slide. Don't overdo the title, but tell people what you're doing. Let's see. Context and abstract, you know this stuff. Say what audience you're intending this for, general or great or very knowledgeable, experienced, educated. Context, why are we here? Why am I talking about this? Well, we're talking about this because it's part of information technology class, and then the idea here is to give you some background in technology to help you teach. This is one final element of this class. Most of you know PowerPoint, but again, we're trying to fill in a few holes here. Crisp beginning. They always talk about jokes. I don't do jokes. So I don't use jokes. I just try to get started, move on. Technical terms and unfamiliar symbols, and I would add to that abbreviations. Don't use an abbreviation. This goes back to don't overestimate their knowledge. Don't use an abbreviation until you've defined it in a PowerPoint. Just keep in mind that PowerPoints, we'll talk about that in a minute, will be something they'll take with them. Use a very large font. Recommended 24 point or larger. At least 24, okay? 24 point or larger. 4 didn't come through. Let's try this again. 24 point or larger. There it did, okay. 24 point or larger, my recommendation. Margins are important with PowerPoints. You're in a room showing, you want to keep stuff off the bottom of the slide. Don't fill the slide in all the way to the bottom. Generally, people in the back can't see the bottom. Don't cram it all up at the top. But what that gets to then is you don't have too many lines on your slide. The bottom part is unusable in most cases. All right? Doing a presentation, the people in the back can't normally see the bottom of your slide. Small number of lines, I would say 4 or 5 maximum. No more lines than that. No more text than that. Depending on the presentation and the topic, if you're showing a lot of pictures of something, that's different. But text, bullet points, I wouldn't do more than 4 or 5. Keywords, obviously. You don't write prose on PowerPoint. These are bullet points, right? The idea is to keep you on topic and keep the audience moving with you, give them a visual aid. You know how that works. Everybody learns differently. It's just you. They'll probably be a little bored. Unless you're a dynamic speaker, incredibly good speaker. The PowerPoint is to kind of give them something else to think about, something to look at, and to keep you on track and let them know where you're headed. So keyword and phrases, don't do prose. PowerPoint has a spell checker, use it. Nothing worse than, it happened to all of us, but I mean, try to use the spell checker, it will help. Put my pen back here. Do not compute in public. This is, remember, for math teachers, but math teachers, when you're using PowerPoints, you don't want to do a lot of computations. Everything should be worked out, examples, hard copied in there. The idea then is use whiteboards and other things to do the computations. not in the slide itself. Keep it simple. Use figures and so forth, that's obvious. If you're using a slide more than once, don't flip back to it. Put it in there more than once, okay? That's very important. It's nothing worse than having, as you've seen me in some of these recordings where my projector is, my smartboard isn't working too well. I had to go back and find a slide. It took a while. But the idea is if you're using the same slide, put it in twice, put it in everywhere you need it. It helps you with your timing, your pacing, and you don't have to search for anything. I think that's a good recommendation. Use only the features of PowerPoint that make sense. Don't overdo it. Just remember, just because you can do something with technology doesn't necessarily mean you can. You should. A little cartoon about how we get so caught up in the technology. You ready for your talk? I think so. I got my laptop, my laser pointer. I got my backups, multimedia, CD, USB, hard copy, transparency version. But are you ready? And of course she's not. So focused on preparing all those technical things, getting ready to project things, getting ready to have a digitized copy and a backup and so forth and so on, that you forget about what it is you're going to say. Remember, the PowerPoint and all this digital technical stuff is not the presentation. You are. You're the presentation. Those are just tools to help you keep the audience awake, keep them on track, and keep yourself on track and remind you what you want to say. They are not the end. Okay? We get caught up in that with technology for some reason. Use color for emphasis. Don't overdo it. I hate that. Keep colors to a minimum. Rehearse. Okay, you know all that stuff. I really like this one, and you probably do this to some extent. And this isn't just a PowerPoint thing, but if you're giving a talk, it's nice to, in your head at least, if not formally in the document, break it into modules. Why? Well, as you're doing a presentation and you have an audience in front of you, you may find out that they're interested about certain parts of the PowerPoint or your presentation that the last group wasn't, or they find one part boring, or you get a sense that they don't want to hear this part of it. What you can do if you modularize it and group the slides in some way, you can skip over some of them. Say, you know what? We don't need to talk about this. You folks know this too well. I put it in here for other folks, not you, and you skip over it. Or if you find yourself running out of time, remember it is important to stay on time, you can skip over parts of it. Make a decision about where you want to go from here. So modularize it. Think about that. And organize your slides accordingly. Certain modules. Even if it's not formal with subtitles or something, in your head think, well, I can cut it here, I can flip to here, those kinds of things. It really does help. And you all do this. If something pops into your head related to the subject, you can bring it out for discussion purposes. That's what they're saying there. You do that. Does anybody do this anymore? I don't, because most people don't have transparency projectors anymore. But so this document's probably a little old. Delivery, show up early, check stuff. Very important. Erase the chalkboards. Well, chalkboards? I haven't seen one of those in a while. Remove objects, so you know all this stuff. Laser pointer, I don't use them generally because I use this smartboard. But if you're not using a smartboard, they're very important. Remote control devices to change slides. That's a good one. Turn off your screensaver. We had that problem with our smartboard in the early days here. The power save would turn off the monitor. The computer would go to sleep, or the screensaver would pop up. We have all that turned off now, and we have to do everything manually. That's fine. I really like this one. Keep the lights on. People want to see you. Remember, they're not here to see your PowerPoints. They're here to hear what you have to say. The PowerPoints are important, but they want to see you. They don't want to sit and look at PowerPoints. That's my take on it. You may disagree. But I think it's a mistake to focus on the PowerPoints. They are just tools. Like any technical thing, they are just tools. So keep the lights on. You might want to dim the lights, but they want to see you. That's why you stand up in front. You're the conductor. You're making things happen. If the light's off, they can't see you anymore. It's not as interesting. That's just my take. You may disagree. Enthusiasm, you all know that. Move. Don't stand in one place. I tend to move too much, which is why I use this. It keeps me kind of anchored. But you need to move a little bit. Don't read the slides. That's one of my pet peeves. Taught a lot of management classes for the University of Maryland, undergraduate, graduate, and you know, everybody requires presentations now in their classes, as you know. In our classes, most of them require some sort of presentation. But it seems early on, students don't understand. They'll bring up their PowerPoints and read them to you. I can read. You don't read me the PowerPoint. It's just awful. Talk about death by PowerPoint. Put something up there and read it to me. Oh my goodness, no. But fill in the blanks. This is an outline. This is a tool. Don't read it to me. Oh, that's horrible. Okay. Personalize. Yeah, of course, you do that every day when you teach. This is not controversial, but there's a difference of opinion on this one. Don't distribute handouts at the beginning. The idea is if you do that, people will be distracted. I'm going to go back to the other mode here. I think that might help us here, if I can bring it up. There you go. Okay. Let's see if this works okay. Just wanted to try that for a little bit so you can see another capability here. But like I was saying, this one here is somewhat controversial. The handouts. Well, we're going to have handouts. Why? Takeaways, they're called, right? You heard that phrase, especially as you go through your graduate program here. If you have gone through one, or here, you're going to find out about your presentation. You want people to have takeaways. Why do you do takeaways? Well, you do that so that the next day they can remember what you talked about and who you are. It seems funny they should remember, but they don't. They kind of do, but the takeaway allows them to sit in their office the next day and kind of refresh their memory and go through what you did and remember you did a great job. Remember, we're talking about presentations here more than we're talking about teaching day to day. Presentation. So takeaways are important. You want to have them take something away to refresh their memory of what you did. The PowerPoint is a good way to do that with other things perhaps. And there's different formats you can print out the PowerPoint, as you probably know. Some of them allow people to take notes. There'll be a blank frame here and the PowerPoint over here. Well, that's what some people do. Hand them out ahead of time so people can take notes while you're talking. That's up to you. I think this is a very good point. Why should they have a handout in front of them? Some people like that. So just your call on that one. But it is an interesting point. Aren't they going to be distracted if they're looking at the printouts? Focus on you. That puts more pressure on you, but the audience then is a little more active, I think. I mean, people read through your whole PowerPoint and think they understand the presentation, close it, put it aside, and now they're done. You still have 10 slides to go. It's not a good situation, I don't think. My opinion. Repeatedly define things that might be unfamiliar. Don't assume, this is teaching, you do this. Don't assume they get it the first time. This is kind of funny. Go over the big ideas twice, go over the big ideas twice. They do it twice. That's, of course, you know how that works. Say it one way, say it again a different way. He does it the same way here, but eye contact, you know about that. Nothing holds an audience better than if you look them in the eye. You know that. Speak loudly, project to the back. No audience here, but I want to make sure you can hear the recording. Bury your voice. If you've ever been on stage, that's something you learn. They teach you to just emphasize words you normally wouldn't emphasize. You think, that sounds silly, but on the stage, if you look, the next time you go to a live stage performance, think about the emphasis on the words. They do odd things with the words, but that's part of the drama of the stage. You can think about doing the same sort of thing when you're doing a presentation. You don't want to overdo it, but sometimes when you find yourself, you hear yourself, you sound monotonous to yourself, the tone of your voice, just change a word or two. And it gives you a little more energy, and it wakes up the folks in the, you know how that is. Say something, it wakes up people, just change the emphasis. Rhetorical, you know that one. You don't ask yes or no questions, right? Talk about death by PowerPoint, that'd be death by discussion. You know that. You've all learned that one. Let's see. Those are all obvious. I'm not going to go into those. This is a good one, too. Remember, we're not talking about teaching, but stay after the talk. People always want to come up and talk to you at conferences and things. When you do talks, presentations, that's a good one, I think. All right. Advantages of PowerPoint over transparencies. I'm not going to go into that much. Just it's much cleaner on the computer. I don't know anybody that uses transparencies anymore. There are a few out there, but not that everybody has a smart board, but people have projectors for their computers. Much easier to use. You all know that. All right. Okay. So that's a quick run through and some recommendations in general. A couple more I want to mention. Keep it simple, especially with PowerPoints. You want to have contrasting text and background, that's obvious, but when people do start doing documentation, digital documents and so forth, almost everybody gets enamored with black background for some reason. It's dynamic. Well, black background kind of tends to have colors blur. Try it sometime. Put green on black, red on black, blue on black. It's hard to tell. It's not as good a contrast as you think it's going to be. Remember, black is, it doesn't go well with a lot of colors. So you're better off having a dark text and a light background rather than the other way around. That's just been my experience. You may disagree. The fonts, I said earlier, make sure it's 24 or higher. There's a couple of things that weren't covered here that I think are important. Keep it simple. Don't use a lot of different colors. Okay. Let's go talk about the assignment itself for a little bit. Here's assignment 4, and real quick I need to bring up PowerPoint, so let me do that. Okay. Here's assignment 4. It's in the course portal. First, the premise of this assignment has a little bit of a premise. The idea here is that you are a consulting firm, and you want to make a short document, PowerPoint, to do a presentation to customers that would make them want to hire you as a Microsoft Office consultant, okay? It's silly, but it just gives you a little bit of a framework to work on this assignment. The idea is, of course, the slides, the environment, the feel of the presentation should be professional, and it should sell you. Here's your background, here's your experience, and also give examples of what you do by using the first 3 assignments, Word, Excel, and Access, all right? I want you to integrate those into your PowerPoint. So you want a professional feel. You want content on the slides supporting the fact that you're a good consulting firm and please hire me, contact information, whatever you think a professional presentation should have, okay? And use your other assignments and embed those. Let's go through some of these specifically. Letter C here. Let's talk about that. Choose a design template and color scheme for the presentation. Make sure it makes sense for this scenario. You can start with one and modify it, but let's first, you probably know this, but I'm going to go over it. And everything I do here, this is Office 2003. If you have 2007, very similar, except at the top, there's a button or a menu up there across the top that says Design, and most of these things are under that. If you have trouble, contact me, I'll help you out. So in this version, 2003, you've got to click Format, top, then Slide Design. Over on the right, like in all Office products we've seen, is where the options are. Look at some of these. Here's a template. Some people might like that. I find that one a little busy for professional use. Some people don't. I may just be an old fuddy-duddy. I don't know. But you can go through these and it'll show you what they look like. Here's a green one. Wow. Very basic, but it's very green. Here's one with stuff on the side. You get the idea. Probably not the best one for, this one is probably not the best one for a professional presentation. It depends, but let's just leave this one up here for a minute. Well, let's go back here. No trouble here. Okay. This is one you see a lot in the Southwest. I've seen it everywhere I go, it seems like. So that's the templates. Pick one that matches the scenario we're talking about. Color schemes are a little different. We're going to keep the same basic template, which is, as you know, is format, background, and so forth, but you can change colors. That's what the color scheme is. That's a great Southwest color scheme right there, but probably not the best one for a professional presentation. Very basic one there. You get the idea. Pick one of those you like that matches the scenario. Template, color scheme. All right. You have to have 6 slides. That's not very much. Didn't want to make this a long, drawn-out assignment. I just wanted you to use some of the functionality. Add clip art to 2 of your slides. Move and resize or modify clip art. All right, let's take a look at that. How do you add clip art? A lot of you know that, but let's go over it. You insert picture. So you go up to the top, insert, drop down, picture, clip art. I was testing this earlier, and I decided I wanted a dragon. So I typed in dragon, and you click on go. Let's see. I found it on the web, and somehow that got turned off. So I turned on everywhere. I want you to look everywhere for dragons now. Let's try this again. Wow. There we go. Found a bunch of dragons. I like dragons. Probably not the best thing to do in a professional presentation, unless you're in China, perhaps. Well, let's select this one. I'm sorry, you just double click. Oops. There it is. Very colorful, big dragon. But it's probably a bit big. So I'm going to change the size. You've got these points of reference on the side. Click on it and drag them. Just made it smaller. Now touch it, move it, or actually you're going to use the left mouse click. My apologies. And I'm going to move it down so I can get to the top. Drag that down, move it back to the center. And drag the bottom up. I'm going to make it smaller, a lot smaller. Smaller still. You get the idea. Make it something useful for you. Okay. There's my dragon. So that was a clip art. Notice if you go back to insert picture, you can also insert a couple other things here, and I won't go into any of these except from a file or from a camera. If you have pictures of your family or pictures that you think might work in this assignment, you can pull those in. They're JPEGs normally. And you can pull those into your presentation as well if you want to by clicking on from file. I'm not going to do that. I just wanted you to see that. Okay. So there's a clip art. Got to put that on 2 slides, right? And we move, resize it. I showed you how to do that. Next it says apply transitions. That's what happens to a slide when it's first displayed. Okay? Transitions. To get there, you go to slideshow at the top, slide transition, and they pop up over here on the right again. So right now it's set to no transition, so it just changes the slide. Here's blinds horizontal, home horizontal, all kinds of stuff here. Cut. That one didn't work too good. Dissolve's a good one. Fade smoothly. Fade through black. Newsflash. That's from the old 30s when they would have a headline rotating in the black and white noir films. What else they got here? Diamond. Whatever you want. Whatever works for you. I want you to use a couple of those. Okay? Transitions. The other thing, of course, is automatic advancement. If you want to do a presentation on a kiosk or monitor that repeats over and over, you've got to have the slides change automatically, right? Do that down here, advanced slide, lower right. Right now, it only advances on a click. If you want it to go automatic, then you put a time. Trouble with that? Okay, there's 11 seconds. Let's put it down to 3 seconds. So this slide will advance after 3 seconds to the next slide. That's a transition. Okay? Let's play it. There was the, I'm going to play it again here. That was the fade in, and there it's held for 3 seconds and quit. All right? Very good. So I set automatic transitions or timings for each transition. Couple more and we're done. I want you to embed examples of your assignments. Word document, Excel spreadsheet, the Access database. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to add a new slide here. A couple ways to do that. I usually do it this way. Click the mouse over here. Right click, new slide. Boom. Okay, there's a new slide. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I want to embed, let's say, a Word document. Here's a Word document I have on the desktop. It's instructions on how to use some PowerPoints. Okay, there's the text. Just wanted you to see that. Close it now. I'm going to embed that text in my PowerPoint, and it will embed it inside the box here I'm working with. So click on that. Insert. This time, object. Right, not clip art. If you leave this in create new, you're creating a Word document on the fly right inside your PowerPoint. Not something you normally want to do. Normally you want to bring in something from outside you've already created. In your case, your biography. Go up the desktop here. Let's see. My Word document. There it is. Okay, I clicked on that. Boom. Thinking. There's the text from that Word document. So it actually puts the Word document in there formatted like it is in Word. That can be very helpful if you have some documentation to do. I want you to do this just to see how to do it. And then you can also do the same with your Excel spreadsheet, and I'll let you figure out the Access database. If you're having trouble with that, let me know. Remember, you're doing this to sell yourself as a consultant. One last thing, speaker notes, H here. Well, speaker notes are just notes for yourself. The audience doesn't see these. They're to remind you to emphasize certain points. And if you find yourself, for instance, always forgetting something during a PowerPoint presentation, put it in the notes to remind yourself. Or if you find out somebody in the audience has a birthday, you might want to put that in there so you can say that as you move along. It's just a way to communicate with yourself, not the other people. And of course, you do that at the bottom. Click to add notes. It says it right there at the bottom. Click on that, add your notes. And I just wanted you to learn how to do that. You have to do that to three slides. All right? Okay. I think that's covered the assignment. Not much of a long lecture here. Easy to watch, but it might help you. If you've never done these things, you might think about using them. I mean, I've shown you how to use them, is what I meant to say, to fulfill the assignment. If you want to do other things and you're having trouble with them, contact me. I'll help you out with them. If I know how to do it, I'll help you through it. I want you to learn with this assignment, like all the assignments here. Ask questions, get working on the assignment, and post it into the classroom when you're done. Thanks. Talk to you later.